Sophia pressed her hand against his chest, lightly pushing him. She looked at him and said, "Now go change your clothes and freshen up. I am feeling hungry." He gave her a sly smile. "Hungry for what?" She turned her head away from him. "Mate, I'm starving. I want to have dinner now. Go, go." She stood up and gave him a quick look. With a sigh, he got up. "As you wish, baby girl." He turned around and made his way to the staircase. She stared at his broad shoulders until he went to his bedroom upstairs. Sophia's lips curled up into a smile. She felt fortunate to have Brian in her life. He was the best man in the world. He knew what she liked, he knew what she wanted, and he knew what could make her happy. He was the perfect mate for her. Sophia went to the kitchen and told the maids to set up the table. She kept an eye on the maids while they were setting the table. She could not trust anyone here. They were all after her mate. When she saw that the table was filled with food, she grinned while looking at it. "Why are you so happy today? Is it because of your last exam?" She heard Brian's voice coming from a distance. She turned around to see him approaching the table. He was in casual clothes, which grabbed her heart tightly. She walked over to the table's head chair and pulled it out for Brian. "Please sit." Brian was stunned by it, but he made his way to the chair and sat down. Sophia sat on the right side of the table, close to his seat. She took Brian's plate and served him food. She placed it close to him and said, "Eat." Then, with her chin resting on her hands, she fixed her gaze on Brian. Brian frowned at her. "Why are you not eating? Didn't you say you were hungry? You should have eaten first." She just shook her head. "No, I want to watch you eat." Brian put a spoonful of food into his mouth with a puzzled expression. His brows arched slightly. Sophia began to feel nervous. She gulped when she noticed a change in his expression. After removing the empty spoon from his mouth, he chewed the food. "How is it?" she asked in a mumbling tone. It's good, a different taste," he replied calmly. Her eyes lightened up in happiness. He chuckled at her reaction and asked, "Why are you so pleased?" "Nothing," she answered, shaking her head. She did not tell him that she was the one who cooked it for him. She started eating quietly. He liked it, and that was enough for her. The sounds of cutlery could be heard in the silent dining room. When Sophia and Brian got up from their seats after dinner, the maids came to clean the table. Sophia glanced at the watch and thought, "I should leave now. Though I sent Mom a message before coming here, I should not return home too late." Brian sat on the couch in the living room, studying her thoughtful look. "What happened?" She blinked her eyes and replied, "I need to go home now. Mom must be waiting for me. She knows I am on leave from the company, so I don't have any official work now to return home late." Brian's eyes observed her expressions. He noticed how she was fiddling with her fingers in nervousness. "Call your mom and tell her you are staying at Sarah's house tonight." Sophia's eyes widened. "But Sarah is going out of the pack tonight." Brian turned his head to look at the phone that was sitting on the tea table. It was Sophia's phone. He reached out to grab the phone and handed it to her. "But your mom doesn't know that Sarah is leaving. You are staying with me tonight." Sophia's heart began to fasten. She lowered her head and looked at her phone in her hand. She was a blushing mess. Even after months of sleeping together, she still felt shy around him. She called her mother. When she received the call, Sophia turned around from Brian and told her mother that she would stay at Sarah's home tonight. Her mother agreed with it. Most of the time, Sophia made this excuse to stay with Brian. When her mother hung up the call, Sophia was about to turn around. But before that, a pair of strong arms wrapped around her body and lifted her. She looked at Brian, who was holding her in his arms. "I haven't touched you for a week. It is very hard for me to control myself right now." His deep voice and seductive words caused a sensation in her lower abdomen. She rested her head on his chest and let him take her to his bedroom. The whole night, her loud moans could be heard from the bedroom. Every time she clenched around him, his desire grew stronger, and he never let her breathe freely. Sophia felt as if her body had no more strength when the man let go of her. She wrapped her naked body around him very tightly, and she could feel the warmth emanating from his body. In his arms, which was the safest place for her, she fell asleep. Early in the morning, Sophia was jolted awake by a loud knock that woke her up from her sleep. She opened her eyes and felt startled by the knocks on the door. She turned her head and noticed Brian had also awoken just now. "Alpha, Madame Juliana is here. She is calling you downstairs." Ivana's voice came out of the door. Sophia immediately sat up, holding the quilt to her chest. "What is Mom doing here this morning?" he murmured in a raspy voice. As if he had no concern about it, he sat up leisurely and turned to look at Sophia. "Go and take a shower. I'm going downstairs to see what happened." Sophia nodded her head in response, but she flinched when she heard Juliana's loud voice coming from downstairs. "Brian, come down right now." Brian rolled his eyes when he heard his mother's loud voice. Sophie gulped and went to take a quick shower. When the water dripped on her, she remembered the day she went to the pack house. That day, she noticed Juliana's strange behavior toward her. It was as if she did not like Sophia at all. Even after Bruce admitted his fault, her eyes remained cold on her. Sophia closed her eyes when she felt the pressure of the water on her face. She had no idea why Juliana had come here. Did she come here to meet her son? It was possible. After taking a shower, Sophia wrapped the towel around her body and stepped out of the bathroom. When she entered the bedroom, she found a new dress on the bed. She realized that Brian might have told Ivana to bring a dress for her here. He was the owner of the brand. He has a bunch of collections of dresses, so he may have told his men to send some to his house. Sophia put on the dress and dried her hair. She waited for Brian in the room. After a while, Brian came to the bedroom. He closed the door behind him and shook his head with a sigh. Sophia turned around to look at him. "What happened?" she asked, getting up from the bed. Brian looked at her. "Nothing. She is just angry with me for her maid." Sophia's brows lifted in surprise. "Which maid? The one you fired last night?" He walked to her and replied, "Yeah." She began to wonder if Juliana was mad at her too. Did the maid say that it was because of her that Brian fired her from the job? Brian noticed how her mind was wandering with different thoughts. He reached out his hand to touch her head, then stroked her hair. "Why do you look worried?" She looked into his eyes and bit her bottom lip in nervousness. He shifted his gaze to her lips. She was stunned when he leaned down and kissed her lips. It was just a simple smooch that spread fire on her body. She stared at him with eyes full of love. However, she found his eyes clear. She could not see any emotions there. Or was he hiding them from everyone? Her thoughts were interrupted when he touched her chin and said, "No one can dare to hurt you because they know who is behind you. You are my woman." She blushed and lowered her head. He chuckled and let go of her chin. He walked in the direction of the closet and said, "If you want, you can go downstairs now. I told Mom to have breakfast together." Her eyes widened and she raised her head. "She knows I am here?" Brian glanced at her. "What did I tell you a few seconds ago? Remember that and calm down." She saw Brian take his clothes out of the closet. Brian went to the bathroom to take a shower, while Sophia was worried as hell. She glanced at the door and wondered if she would go first or with Brian. Then she decided to go first. It would look awful if she did not go first. She left the bedroom and went downstairs. The moment she entered the living room, her steps halted. Juliana Morrison was seated on the couch. Beside her was Ivana Stones. She was updating Juliana on everything about the house. Juliana lifted her hand to stop Ivana when she noticed Sophia. "I see, my son is up to something." Sophia moved her gaze away from her and lowered her head. "Hello, Aunt. Good morning." Juliana did not let out a word for a few seconds, which caused Sophia to feel more nervous. It was as though Juliana's eyes were scanning her from head to toe. Then suddenly, Juliana broke the silence and said, "Sit here." Sophia glanced at the couch where Juliana was pointing her finger. She stepped forward to sit on the couch. "Leave us alone," Juliana said to Ivana. Ivana bowed her head and left the living room. Juliana's eyes shifted to Sophia once again. "I won't ask you what you are doing in this house, because it's obvious." Sophia fixed her eyes on the floor. She knew this woman disliked her. "I am surprised how a young girl has the ability to wrap both of my sons around her fingers." Sophia lifted her head and looked at Juliana with a frown. Juliana interrupted her by saying, "My younger son used to like you. And that was fine with me because he is not the leader of this pack. But as the former Luna of this pack, how can I expect my elder son, who is the head alpha, to have you as his mate? Sophia's lips trembled after hearing her. Listen, girl, I know everything about you. You belong to a poor family, which I don't have a problem with. What I have a problem with is your rank. You are an Omega. How can you be with my son, Brian? Sophia took a deep breath and parted her lips. Aunt, it's not about the mate bond only. We have feelings for each other. She had no idea where she got the courage to say that, but she could not just let Brian's mother insult her. Juliana fell silent for a few seconds after hearing her. However, after the brief pause, she burst into laughter. What did you just say? Feelings? Juliana shook her head as if trying to control her laughter. Sophia felt humiliated by her behavior. I don't know what you think of me, but he wants me in his life, so I will do what he says. Juliana stared at her before unzipping her bag. She took a check out of her bag and placed it next to her on the couch. I have a fantastic offer for you. Sophia was perplexed about what she was saying or doing. What offer are you talking about? Julian stroked her fingers on the check while looking directly at Sophia and replied, Your brother's training period will come to an end this week. Once he has completed the period, Brian will no longer be able to dismiss him from his position. As for your mother, I have heard that she is ill. I am willing to send her money if she needs it. There is no longer a need for you to be here. Sophia's heart beat fastened. She tightened her fists and asked, What do you mean? What do you want? Juliana leaned her back against the couch gracefully and replied, Here is a check for $1 million. Take it and leave my pack forever. Sophia immediately rose to her feet in shock. She could not believe what she heard. Aunt, what are you saying? Julian looked at her with dissatisfaction. I have seen girls like you a lot. You wanted to connect with the royal family, whether it's the younger son or the elder son. But let me make it clear to you. My elder son is no joke. He is a very sharp-minded man. Each step he takes is very calculated. If you think he is in love with a weak Omega like you are just wasting your time. Sophia mumbled through trembling lips. I know how my mate is. He cares for me, and that's enough for me. I had no intention of connecting with the royal family in the first place. Bruce cheated on me, and I broke up with him before discovering that his brother was my mate. Juliana looked impatient. She stood up and glared at her. Leave my son. You are no match for him. He needs a powerful lady who can rule this pack with him, rather than a naive and weak Omega who always roams around him like a puppet. Her words broke Sophia's heart. She knew she was an Omega, but why did it matter to Brian's mother? Why couldn't an Omega stand next to a head alpha? Why did the moon goddess make Omegas the weakest rank? Don't overthink, girl. Just take the check and leave my pack. By doing so, no one will get to know that you are his mate. He will not have to worry about his position either. Sophia cast a glance at the check. Juliana's lips formed a grin as she noticed this. She took the check and made her way to Sophia. She handed it to her and said calmly, Think about it, Sophia. With this money, you can do whatever you want. Only a foolish girl will resist money when it's placed on the plate in front of her. With a smile for Juliana, Sophia tightly grasped the check. Juliana thought Sophia had accepted the check, so she let out a sigh of relief. It was like she had been feeling worried about it for a long time. I knew it. I knew that you wouldn't resist this amount of mon. Juliana paused when Sophia tore the check in front of her. Sophia's eyes were fixed on the check when she spoke out. If you offer me all of your money, I will still not accept it. I love your son. No one can buy love with money. She grasped Juliana's hand and placed the 2 pieces of paper, which were now useless. Aunt, I think I should leave the house now. You may prefer to have breakfast alone with your son. It is nice to meet you again. Saying that, Sophia headed to the entrance. Juliana dashed over to her, clutching her arm tightly in rage. To him, you are merely a pet. I will make him realize that. Do you know why I replaced his maids with young girls? It's because I wanted them to seduce him and distract him from you. He will kick you out of his life once he feels that. Juliana's voice was low, but Sophia heard everything clearly since they were very close in distance. Sophia's eyes welled up with tears. Why are you due? What's happening here? A deep voice echoed in the house. Both of them turned their heads toward the stairs as soon as they heard the voice. While looking at them, Brian was making his way down the stairs. Juliana immediately let go of Sophia's arm. Meanwhile, Sophia turned her head away and wiped the corners of her eyes. When Brian was about to approach, Sophia spoke out, "Alpha, I have to go to my house right now. See you in the office tomorrow." Without looking at him, she bowed her head and left his house. As soon as she stepped out of the house, tears began to fall down her cheeks. She wiped her tears right away. She did not want to cry for anything. She believed Juliana had also spoken with Brian about it, but he loved her and refused to leave her. That was why Juliana came to speak with her directly. In fact, she offered her a large amount, believing she would accept it. Sophia decided to hail a cab, but at that moment, Brian's car appeared in her sight. Brian's driver came out of the car and opened the back door for her. "Miss, Alpha ordered me to drive you home." A small smile formed on her lips. That man really cared for her. It was not her imagination, but reality. Even if he was busy handling his mother right now, he sent his driver to send her home. She got inside the car. The driver hurriedly went back to his seat and started the car. Sophia turned her head to the window and looked outside the world. Her mind was fixed on what Juliana had told her. Suddenly, she heard the sound of a ring. She turned her head and thought it was her phone's tone. She then realized she had forgotten her phone at Brian's house. "Miss, I forgot to give you the phone." The driver said that and gave a phone to her. Sophia held her phone and realized Brian had remembered to send it to her. She checked her phone and noticed several messages from the admirer number. She read them one by one. "I just walked by your favorite pastry shop. I wish I could buy one for you. Why are you not replying to me?" The message was sent to her phone early in the morning. She was confused as to why Brian sent her messages while he was with her in the morning. She then saw the last message, which she had just received. "Are you okay?" She stared at the text. If she had only seen the last message, she would have continued to believe it was Brian. However, she had already read the first two messages, implying that the person was not Brian, because Brian was present when the messages were sent. She did not wait. She sent a message asking, "Who are you?" She waited for a while until the reply came to her phone. "How about meeting tomorrow at that restaurant near Nightshade University?" "Brian, I am asking you something," Juliana said as she stared at her son. She had been questioning him for 10 minutes about why he had called that girl at home, but he had not responded. "Brian, why are you?" She paused when Brian's gaze lifted from his plate and shifted to her. Juliana gulped as she met her son's cold gaze. She averted her eyes from him. Her son was not an ordinary alpha. He had a history of dominance. It was the prophecy of the fortune tellers that an alpha would come to this pack and extend the pack to the highest reach, which no one had ever thought of. During the time that Brian was inside her womb and she was only 3 months pregnant, she had to endure the kind of pain that other pregnant women normally do not experience during that time. In fact, doctors even told her that it would be tough for her to have this child. Nevertheless, she did not agree to the suggestion of having an abortion and instead made the decision to keep the child. After some time had passed, when she was in the 6th month of her pregnancy, a fortune teller informed her and her husband that he could see the arrival of the alpha of the Nightshade pack, which everyone had been waiting for all of these years. She and Alpha Max were happy about it. When Brian was born, the entire pack was filled with joy and celebration. As time went on, Max and Juliana both witnessed the changes that occurred in his behavior and powers. Max had never considered going after other people's packs. However, a few years ago, just after Brian had been given the responsibility, another pack thought about attacking the Nightshade pack. That was the time when all the packs realized who Alpha Brian was. Before the enemies could reach the border, Brian attacked the pack and demolished the whole pack in one night. From that night on, all the alphas trembled in fear whenever they heard his name. They were afraid to even think of attacking the pack. Brian was not behind in the business world either. Business was like his favorite hobby. If any alpha offended him, he punished them in the business field. The Nightshade pack had grown to become the most developed pack just because of his extraordinary business skills. If you keep asking the same question and I am not replying to you, that means I don't want to, Mom. Brian's voice was sharp. His voice did not even shake a little to talk with his mother. Juliana slowly turned her head to look at him. She was sitting beside his chair. They were having breakfast in the dining room. I can't understand what you have seen in that girl, she muttered in anger. She reached for the knife and the fork, and then she started slicing the steak. But her movements froze when Brian questioned her. What did you say to her that she had to leave my house like that? Juliana looked at Brian and shrugged her shoulders. I didn't tell her to leave your house. Her grips around the fork and knife tightened as she thought. Instead, I told her to leave you and your pack. Then why did she leave? He asked in a calm tone. I don't know. Brian, what made you fire that maid? She is a beautiful young girl who can... Brian's eyes darkened. Placing his fork on his plate, he crossed his arm over his chest. I knew you intentionally sent those maids. Juliana's shocked eyes grew larger. I was just... Mom, just because you are sick, you can't make me do whatever you want. Juliana lowered her head to look at the plate and started eating without uttering a single word. Brian observed her for a while, then got up from his chair. Juliana looked up at her son. Where are you going? She asked, then glanced at his unfinished plate. I lost my appetite, he replied, leaving the living room. She hurriedly stood up and walked behind him. Brian, your father is concerned for you. Why are you not receiving his calls? Tell him I'm busy these days, Brian said, heading to the main door. After raising her hand and placing it on her chest, Juliana let out a scream. Ah! Brian turned around and saw Juliana holding her chest. She almost fell to the floor, but Brian ran to her and kept her from falling. Mom! He made her sit on the couch. Hearing Juliana's scream, other maids rushed to the living room. Ivana hurriedly brought a glass of water. Juliana rested her head on Brian's chest and drank the water. As Brian patted her on the back, he said, Let me call the pack doctor. Juliana held his hand and shook her head. There is no need for that. She glanced at the maids, indicating that she wanted them to leave her and Brian alone. As soon as they realized what she was trying to say, the maids left them alone. Brian frowned at his mother. Why are you so stubborn? I saw Dad's messages. This was the reason why I was not receiving his calls. With a smile, Juliana questioned, So when he said your mom doesn't want to see a doctor anymore, you still ignored it? Brian averted his gaze away from her. I am trying to find someone to cure your illness. She moved her head away from his chest and cupped his cheeks. She turned his head to look at her. Your mom has only a few years left. I want to see you get married and have children. Brian stared at her without any emotion in his eyes. My son, why are you so cold? Why can't you feel anything? Can you not see that your mother is dying? Or have you developed feelings for someone you shouldn't? Brian's frown deepened as he asked, What do you mean? She removed her hands from his cheeks and replied, Brian, it's been a while since you became the head alpha. You need to think about this pack's future. Just like a half moon, a pack without a Luna is incomplete. The whole day, Sophia was upset. What Brian's mother told her was beyond her imagination. It was not a joke. She loved Brian. How could she tell her to get out of Brian's life? Though Brian called her and asked what his mother had told her, she did not say anything to him. She had already told his mother what she needed to say. She did not want to cause any issues between the mother and son. Because of the thoughts that she was having about Juliana's words, Sophia was unable to get a restful night's sleep. Brian would indeed not be able to do anything when her brother's training period was over. It was because of the laws. Gammas were very important for every pack. After the head alpha, Gammas controlled the war since they were the main warriors of the packs. The next morning, Sophia woke up with a pale face. She thought about going to the company since her days off were over. A message appeared on the screen of her phone just as she was getting out of bed. As soon as she reached for her phone, she noticed the message that had been sent from the admirer number. I will be at the restaurant in half an hour. Her brows lifted as she read the message. She almost forgot about this person. She rubbed her forehead and felt that her days were not going that well. She did not reply and got ready as soon as possible. She had to meet this person who knew many things about her. In fact, he was aware of her favorite pastry shop. She wondered if he was stalking her. She left the house after apologizing to her mother for not being able to join her for breakfast. She took a cab to the restaurant where she was supposed to meet the person. She wanted to think about who this person might be, but her thoughts kept returning to what had happened yesterday. His mother will oppose my relationship with him. How am I going to handle her? She bit her bottom lip in nervousness when she remembered Brian's father did not like her as well. She was confronted with the chaos that was being caused by everything that was going on. However, she recalled what Brian had told her in his bedroom. She placed her hand on her chest and patted it. He loves me. He calls me his woman. He will handle everything. I believe he will. She smiled as the worry in her chest eased slightly as she thought about Brian. The cab came to a stop beside the restaurant. She paid the cab driver and got out of the cab. She looked at the restaurant. Almost immediately, the memories of her and Brian spending time in this restaurant came to her mind. A grin spread across her lips as she gazed at the small restaurant. As soon as she walked into the restaurant, she began to look around. She suddenly became nervous. She came to meet a stranger who she did not even know, but the person knew her really well. But when her gaze fell upon the person seated at the last table by the window, she froze. Be Bruce? She took a step back. She shook her head and looked away from him. No, it can't be him. She turned around as she thought to leave. She would block the person's number. She did not care who the hell it was, but her steps halted when Bruce noticed her and called out her name. Sophia. She turned around to face him. Bruce, what are yo? Bruce moved in her direction and grasped her hand. He tugged her to the table while saying, I was waiting for you. Sophia was too shocked to say something. When he pulled the chair for her, she got back to her senses and moved aside. What do you mean? Didn't you come here to meet me? He asked with a warm smile on his face. No, I came to meet someone else. She could not just believe him and dialed the admirer number. Her grip on her phone froze when Bruce's phone began to ring. Sophia's hand dropped to her side in shock. You? Bruce locked his gaze on her. I knew you would not speak to me if you knew it was me, so I had to contact you using an unknown number. Sophia parted her lips, but no words came out. All of a sudden, the day when someone sent the flowers to her cabin came to her mind. It was not from Brian. So that BM was not Brian Morrison, but Bruce Morrison? She mumbled while looking lost. She made a huge mistake by accepting the flowers. Sophia, let's talk, Bruce said, holding her hand. She shut her eyes in anger. She grabbed his wrist, removed his grip on her hand, and then pushed it. Why did you do that to me? She asked. He shook his head and cupped her cheeks. You know the answer. I can't see you with my brother. I want you to be with me. During the time that she was staring at him, she was thinking about how she could convince this man that there was no possibility of them getting back together. Bruce removed his hand from her cheeks when he noticed she was not responding to him. She could not help but let out, Anne, you are just obsessed with me. Stop doing this. I am your brother's woman now. If he hadn't come between us, even if I had never met him or he had not been my mate, I would not have returned to you. After saying that, she left him in the restaurant. Everything she said to him was true. He and she would not have ended up together. She hailed a cab and went to the company. Her only intention was to see who the person was. Since she was aware of it now, she knew what I would need to do right now. I will tell Brian about it. He will surely make Bruce understand it, she said to herself. When she arrived at the company, everyone smiled and welcomed her. After all, she had returned after a full week. She took a deep breath when she reached the top floor. She thought about making Brian's coffee, but then decided to talk to him about Bruce first. She went straight to Brian's office and knocked on the door. Come in. She entered the office and saw Brian sitting on his chair behind the desk. She closed the door behind her and walked over to the desk. She noticed Brian did not seem to be in a good mood. His deep furrowed brow was fixed on something. Mate, I need to talk to you. Before she could finish, Brian stood up and threw some photos in her face. "What's this?" he asked her. She was shocked by his actions. Her attention was drawn to a photograph that had fallen to the ground. It was a photo of her and Bruce at the restaurant. Bruce was cupping her cheeks. They looked quite close in the photo. She flinched when Brian asked with a furious tone, "When will you leave my brother?" Sophia replied by shaking her head. "I didn't do anything. I didn't go to him." Brian glared at her, his fists tightened, indicating that he was enraged. This man's fury would burn anyone who dared to come across him, turning them to ashes. Sophia's body shook when she saw how fierce he looked. He no longer looked like Brian, who always behaved softly with her. She tried to calm him down by saying, "Mate, it was he who always came to me." Gathering her courage, she walked to him and held his arm. "Trust me." Brian yanked his hand away from her grip, which caused her to take a few steps back. "If he comes to you, then what's this?" he muttered while pointing his finger at a photo on the floor. Sophia slowly shifted her gaze and felt stunned. The photo seemed to click when she went to the dorm to do her study project. In the photo, she and Bruce were entering a room together. She immediately turned her head to Brian and said, "Nothing is like what you are thinking. That photo was clicked a few months ago. I told you I went to the university to do the study project." Brian stared at her without uttering a single word. His jaw was clenched. After seeing those pictures, he seemed to have gone insane. Someone had sent him a lot of photos today before Sophia arrived at the office. In all of the photos, Bruce and Sophia appeared to be very close. Sophia did not seem to be refusing Bruce or anything. In fact, it looked like Sophia was smiling at Bruce, holding his hand, and walking with him somewhere. Sophia's eyes started welling up with tears. Why was he not believing her? She approached him once more and said, "I told him I could not be with him, but he still acts foolishly. Please don't misunderstand me." Hearing her, Brian raised a brow and asked, "Are you telling me that my brother, who never dared to speak in front of me, approached you behind my back? I don't think he has the audacity to do that." Sophia felt heartbroken. What did he mean? Did he mean that it was her who approached his brother behind his back? Did he not trust her? Was his love for his brother so strong that he could not see that she was innocent? She took a deep breath and decided to tell him the truth about how Bruce had trapped her by sending her messages from an unknown number. "I wanted to tell you about him. She was interrupted by the ringtone of her phone. Brian looked at the screen of her phone, which she was holding in her hand. The moment he saw the contact admirer, his eyes scowled. "Who the fuck is this admirer now?" he asked, and grabbed her phone before she could cut the call. Brian received the call and put it on loudspeaker. "I love you, Sophia." Bruce's voice echoed in the silent room. Sophia swallowed as she saw the darkness creep into Brian's eyes. She felt shaken inside. Brian did not say anything as Bruce continued to speak again. "Why are you so afraid of my brother? Don't worry about him. I will take care of him. He will never learn about our secret relationship. Just don't get mad at me." Sophia's eyes widened. Brian's dark gaze drifted towards her. She shook her head. No, I can't let him misunderstand me anymore." She took the last chance and grabbed the phone from Brian, then spoke out. "Bruce, what nonsense are you talking about? What secret relationship are you talking about? I don't know how many times I need to keep repeating to you that I don't love you. I don't want to be with you either. Please leave me alone. Should I repeat that to you?" Bruce cut me off and said, "No, you are mine. I can't see you with anyone else. I love you." Sophia had had enough of Bruce. Under Brian's enraged stare, she could feel her blood half dried. However, she tried to clear her side. She did not have any regrets now. "Sophia, are you listening to me? Why are you not saying anything? Are you scared of my brother? Then don't. I will be with you." As soon as Bruce said that, Brian spoke out. "I see. You are incredibly brave. Now you are going to protect her from me? You seem to have gotten some wings. Would you like me to cut them, Bruce Morrison?" His voice was sharp. Sophia gulped while lowering her head. It would be better for her to keep quiet right now. "Brother?" Bruce's shaken voice reached Sophia's ears. She sighed as she felt that Bruce had really crossed his line. All these times, she tried to forget her past so that the two brothers would never fight against each other. Now, she did not know what Brian would do, but she knew he really loved his younger brother. As she contemplated the fact that Brian had placed his trust in his brother rather than in her, she felt a pang of pain in her chest. Though those photos showed something else, he should have listened to her side before trusting them. She wondered who sent those photos to Brian. Brother, I was just... Brian cut the call and handed the phone to Sophia. She was silently staring at the floor, expecting him to say something to her. Instead of speaking to her, Brian grabbed his phone from the desk and called someone. Sophia glanced at him with teary eyes. It was clear to her that he was becoming more agitated. As if the call had connected, he spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. Block every card that Bruce has. Take his car back and sell it in the market. Stop giving him the benefits of being Alpha's family member. Okay, Alpha, the other person replied. Brian took a brief moment, looking like he was thinking about something, then said, If my father dares to help him behind my back, tell him to contact me. Brian cut the call and tossed the phone on the desk loudly. The loud sound of the phone caused Sophia to flinch when she heard it. While slowly raising her head, she turned her gaze toward Brian. She saw him sitting on his chair. He reached for the packet of cigarettes and removed one from it. He put the cigarette between his lips and grabbed the lighter to light it. Sophia moved closer to him and grabbed his wrist to stop. Don't smoke too much, she said in a soft tone. Brian looked at the hand that stopped him and then turned his head to look at Sophia. When his cold gaze met hers, her hand trembled around the grip. Didn't he hear his brother? Why was he still angry with her? When she let go of his hand, he lit the cigarette and began to smoke. Sophia stared at him. His eyes were fixed on the blank wall, as if he were thinking about something. Mate! She tried to break the silence between them. Brian exhaled the smoke and said, You came back to the company after a week. Go back to your work. She was stunned by his tone. He was talking like she was an ordinary employee of his company, not his mate. She paused and bit her bottom lip, thinking about why he was doing this to her. Miss Berge, didn't you hear me? Her brows lifted in surprise. She immediately turned away from him and replied, Yes, Alpha. She hurried to the door and left the cabin. When she came out, she rushed to her cabin. She closed the door and leaned her back against it. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she felt hurt by Brian's behavior. She sobbed while walking to her chair. She sat behind the desk and put her head down on it. She was an emotional girl. Her heart was very sensitive. She felt pain whenever Brian distanced himself from her. Why didn't you believe me when I told you I had no fault? Why are you hurting me like this? She mumbled while patting her chest. She had no courage to ask those questions to him. Was he angry that she went to meet Bruce today? After a while, she sat up and wiped her eyes. She came to a realization. He should get mad at me. I deserve this. I should not have gone to meet Bruce in the first place. He loves me and doesn't want to see me with his brother. She took a few deep breaths and made an effort to feel more at ease. With that, she started to work. She checked Brian's schedule. Today, he had a clear schedule. He did not have any meetings, but he would have to be busy for the next 2 days. There would be 2 PAC meetings. Sophia would have to accompany him to the meetings. Sophia got up and left her cabin in order to prepare a cup of coffee for Brian. As she approached the coffee machine, she observed Celine standing there. Hello, Miss Selena. Hey, Sophia, how are you? How were your exams? Sophia talked to her about her exams. When she was about to make coffee for Brian, Selena stopped her. No need to make coffee for Alpha. Why? Sophia asked in confusion. He left the company a few minutes ago. Sophia's brows lifted in shock. Where? How do I know? But I am his secretary. I don't know where he is. It's okay, you can take a break or contact Alpha if he needs you. You are right. Sophia went back to her cabin and dialed Brian's number. Brian did not answer her calls, which caused her to feel anxious about the situation. Why are you punishing me like this, mate? Can't you see how much I love you? Your every action is hurting me. Sophia felt helpless. She sat back on her chair and tried to focus on the projects that Brian had just taken over. However, her mind kept wandering to where Brian would be. Did he go to the pack house? He surely went to the pack house like before. His mom is sick, she thought. Suddenly something hit her mind. Did his mother say something wrong to him about her? She could do that. Sophia did not trust that woman. The woman who could offer her money to leave her son could do anything. Sophia called Delta Edger to know where Brian was. He said Brian was not in the right mood to talk. She could only ask one question to Edger. Is he okay? Edger was quiet for a while before he replied. He is fine. Who would be brave enough to think about hurting Alpha Brian? Sophia spent the entire day in the office. Brian did not return to the company. She did not call him either. If he cared for her, he would surely call her. When it was time to leave the office, Sophia locked her cabin and went to Brian's office to set up all the files. Isn't it strange? As your secretary, my job is always to be by your side, but here I am, working alongside other employees. She sighed and left Brian's cabin. After saying her goodbyes to the other employees, she left the company. As she made her way to the bus stop, she felt defeated. She could not control herself and tried to call Brian again. As soon as Brian received the call, she felt her heart almost skip a beat. "Hello, mate?" she asked with a smile on her face. Her steps also halted as she waited for him to reply. "What?" His question caused her to shudder inside. "Mate, where are you?" "I'm at my house right now." She thought for a moment, then asked, "Are you still mad at me? Do you want me to come to your house?" She knew how to break his anger. He could never resist her closeness. "No, I'm busy right now." His words pierced her heart. She gasped in shock when Brian abruptly ended the call as soon as he had finished speaking. Her hand dropped to the side. She had no idea how things had changed so suddenly. Her legs began to move as her gaze remained fixed on the phone screen. Her mind was not processing anything. Suddenly, she bumped into someone. She took a step back and slowly raised her head to look at the person. Her expression changed instantly when she saw the familiar face. "You?" she mumbled with a surprised look. The person raised a brow while looking at her. "I could call this a coincidence if it weren't you. You never look ahead when you walk, do you?" Sophia stared at the man. He was none other than the person who had helped her in the River Moon pack. Sophia was already upset since Brian's behavior did not seem okay to her, so she could not say much to the man and only apologized. "I'm sorry." His sharp eyes were fixed on her. However, he was in this pack, which surprised her. "What are you doing in this pack?" Sophia asked, recalling his name as Adon. "I can ask you the same," he replied. Sophia let out a sigh and stepped aside. "Mr. Adon, nice to meet you again. I have to leave now. Sorry for the inconvenience. I should have looked ahead while walking." She had no interest in knowing what he was doing here. All she wanted was to go home and cry. Brian had just ignored her, like she was nothing to him. Why? She wanted to put her self-respect aside and go to his house to see what the matter was. In the last few months together with him, he had never behaved so coldly with her. As she walked past the man, he spoke out, "I am not your Adon, by the way." Her steps halted when she heard him. It brought to her mind what Nolan had said to her. Adon meant Lord. She turned around and looked at his back. He remained in his place and had not yet turned to face her. "Who are you?" It was the third time she had asked him the question. There was an air of mystery surrounding this man. He appeared to be Brian's age. Though his aura was different from Brian's, he had some power radiating from him. The man turned around and grinned at her. She raised her brows when her eyes fell on his clothing. He was wearing casual clothes today. She remembered that when she met him in the River Moon pack, he was in an expensive suit. She noticed an expensive watch in his hand, too. In that case, why did this man appear so average now? "Stop scanning my body like that. Or do you want to see it without clothes?" he asked with a smirk. Sophia immediately turned her gaze away from him. How could she forget how shameless his mouth was? "What are you doing here? You are not from this pack," she said, crossing her hand across her chest. He approached her and stopped in front of her. "So you are from this pack. I see. You didn't even welcome your savior. How ungrateful you are." Sophia's folded hands loosened. He was right. He had helped her that day. If he hadn't helped her return to the town that day, she would have lost forever. "Welcome to the Crystal Blood Pack," Sophia said with a small smile. Suddenly, he leaned down and whispered in her ear, "I haven't booked any women here. Want to join me tonight? Sophia got mad at him. She pushed his chest, causing him to retreat a few steps. Pervert! She muttered that and turned around. She could hear his chuckles behind her. Hey! I was just kidding. She ignored his calls and kept walking ahead. She stopped at the bus stop and sat on a bench to wait for a bus. To her surprise, Adon came to sit next to her. Why are you following me? She asked without looking at him. He shrugged his shoulders and replied, It's not your bench. I can sit anywhere, you know. She turned her head slowly and gave him a look. He laughed at her. I was trying to be cool. Why so mad, little girl? His last sentence came out with a heavy voice, which shocked her. This man had a dual personality. He could be funny and serious at the same time. She looked away from him. She glanced at her phone and thought to call Brian again. Her gaze was fixed on the lit screen. Her fingers were running over Brian's number. She was in a daze about whether or not to call him. He might be furious with her for meeting with Bruce. Otherwise, he would not have ignored her like that. Mate, she heard Adon's voice beside her. She turned to him and noticed his eyes were fixed on her phone screen. With a frown between his brows, he was staring at Brian's number, which was saved as mate in her phone book. She locked the phone right away. Don't you know that you should not look at someone else's phone like that? Though the phone screen turned black, his eyes were still on it. His eyes grew gloomy as if he did not like something. She gulped at his sudden change. She got up from the bench. He looked at her. Where are you going? I should take a cab to leave. It's getting too late. He grabbed her wrist to stop her as she turned to walk toward the street. I'm dropping you. No need to take a cab. She lowered her head to look at his hand, which was grabbing her wrist. He was holding her hand as if they had known each other for years. No, thanks. Sophia removed his hand from hers and began to walk. Why don't you call your mate if you are missing him so much? Without pausing her stride, she responded, He is busy. What is he so busy with that he can't give time to his mate? He asked while following her. She noticed his shadow trailing behind her. She was not sure why this strange man was following her. I bet he does not want you as much as you want him. She paused when she heard him. She turned to him with a frown. What's wrong with you? You don't even know my mate. How can you say that? He noticed her changed expression and winked at her. I don't need to know him. That day, you spoke about him a lot. I can only guess. His response caught Sophia off guard. Did he learn that her mate was Alpha Brian? She could not tell anyone about it until Brian gave her permission. She swallowed and asked, What is your guess? He averted his gaze and replied, There is nothing to be afraid of. If he loves you, he should tell the whole world about it. What is there to keep hidden? For some unknown reason, this stranger's words hurt her heart. He was right. Why did Brian still hide their mate bond from others? Do not mind me. I could only guess that you have a powerful mate, as you mentioned. Sophia felt relieved. He might think her mate was just an ordinary alpha in this pack. There was no way he could understand that she was the head alpha's mate. At that time, a car pulled over to their side and stopped beside them. The driver came out and bowed to Adon. Sophia was surprised. Why did the driver bow to him? She stared at Adon with doubtful eyes. He still had not revealed his identity to her yet. Adon opened the back door for Sophia and gestured with his hand. It's late. I can't let you go all alone at this hour. She looked away from him. She felt that he showed some care toward her. Why did he give a damn if she had any trouble returning home at this hour? What was the deal with him? No one would spend so much time with a stranger they had only met twice in their lives. Sophia noticed that he was still holding the back door for her. She knew he was not a danger to her. She could trust him because he had helped her before. She gave him a nod and got inside the car. He closed the door and went to sit next to her. She gave him a surprised look. What? Do you want me to sit with my driver? He asked, closing the door. No, she muttered while turning her head to the window. When the driver got into the car, she gave him her address. The driver glanced at Adon first. Only when Adon nodded at him did he start the car. Sophia was not a fool. She knew who got this type of treatment. No one bows to anyone until he. Are you an alpha from another pack? She questioned Adon. Upon hearing Sophia's inquiry, The driver momentarily glanced in the rearview mirror. Adon's gaze was drawn to that mirror, which caused the driver to divert his attention away from Sophia. There was silence throughout the entire car. With her eyes fixed on Adon, Sophia was awaiting a response. "I am just a businessman who came here to learn business. I have heard the head alpha of this pack is very skilled in business," Adon replied, turning his head to the window. The look in Sophia's eyes brightened. "Are you going to meet him? Let's go and meet him now." He immediately turned to her and asked, "At this hour?" She came to the realization that she had shown her excitement after hearing him. It was because she was eager to meet Brian and wanted a reason to go to him. She cleared her throat and replied, "No, I mean, you seem excited. Have you ever met him? I have heard girls are lining up to be with him." "Yeah, I met him." Sophia felt that this man was clever enough. What if she said something in excitement that she should not reveal to him? "How is he in person?" Adon asked. He sounded excited, which made Sophia believe that he indeed came here to meet Brian. Sophia thought for a moment about Brian before replying to Aiden. He is a man of power. Whenever he walks past someone, they can feel the aura of dominance. He does not let anyone approach him except," she paused and said in her mind, "except me." As if Adon was waiting for her to continue, he asked, "Except?" "Except for the people he trusts." After a few moments of silence, Adon chuckled. Sophia was almost lost in Brian's thoughts, but Adon's chuckle pulled her back to reality. "Hey, are you crazy? Why are you laughing?" Adon shook her head. "You are his fangirl." Sophia frowned at him. "I'm not his fangirl, but his." She was interrupted by a phone call. She checked her phone and saw Brian's number. Within a second, her frown vanished. She did not waste her time and received the call quickly. "Hello, mate." She bit her bottom lip as she waited for him to speak to her. Brian did not speak and remained silent for a few seconds. Meanwhile, Adon was watching her every single movement. His grin faded as he observed her talking on her phone. "Where are you?" Brian asked Sophia. "I'm on my way home." "Why?" she asked in a soft tone. "I sent my driver to the company to drive you home, but he did not find you there," he said calmly. Her heart raced as she heard the depth of his voice. Grinning broadly, she closed her eyes. She exhaled deeply, thinking that everything was okay between them. She knew this man cared for her. Even though he was furious with her, he made sure to send his driver to pick her up for her safety. When she opened her eyes, they were filled with tears. It escaped her mind that there was another person inside the car with her. She was unaware of how the man sitting next to her looked at her with his scanning eyes. "Mate, please don't get mad at me. I will never talk to Bruce again. I promise." Brian took a brief second, and she assumed that he was smoking. She could imagine him smoking while talking to her. He was a chain smoker. She wished she could stop him from smoking too much. His humming soothed her heart. She wiped the corners of her eyes. Before she could say anything else, Brian spoke again. "I'm releasing your brother tomorrow." "Really?" She could not stop herself and nearly jumped onto the seat. She was happy that she could celebrate her birthday with Abraham. "Thank you so much, mate. Make sure you get home safely." Yeah. Brian then ended the call. Sophia let out a deep breath. She was no longer upset. Her mood had shifted with just one call. She was engrossed in her own world when she heard Adon's voice beside her. "Who is Bruce?" Sophia turned to him and said, "You overheard my conversation?" Adon shifted his gaze away from her, looking ahead. "Of course I did. We are in a car, sitting next to each other, and you are talking with another man whose voice was loud enough to reach my ears." His words felt strange to Sophia. She let out a sigh as her eyes fell on his side profile. She could not shake the fact that this man was good-looking. She wondered which pack he belonged to. It was hard to accept that he had come to learn about business, even after he gave her an explanation. There was something in him that was screaming dominance, but he was calm with her. "You have no right to ask me anything. You had not even disclosed your identity to me." At that time, the driver stopped the car with a loud screech. Sophia's body jerked forward at the abrupt stop. Just as her head was about to hit the back of the front seat, a hand came between them. Her forehead pressed against Adon's hand. Her eyes widened with shock. She had no idea what had just happened. She slowly turned her head toward Adon. "Are you okay?" he asked, leaning close to her. She shifted away from him and sat up straight. "I am fine, thank you." Adon looked at the driver and glared at him. "What happened? Accept my apology. I was just... Shut up and focus on the road, not what is going on behind your back." Sophia was almost startled by Adon's loud, sharp voice. She noticed that he was no longer the calm person who was patiently speaking with her. His eyes were digging into the driver. His jaw was clenched and his gaze was deadly. She gulped at his anger. "It's okay. Don't shout at him." As if her voice had done some magic on him, he shut his eyes and exhaled. With serene eyes, he gazed at her. "Sorry, if you have to." "No, it's all right. I can go by myself from here. My house is close by," she said, attempting to open the door. But the driver had already started the car again. Sophia felt defeated and calmly waited to arrive at her house. She began to wonder why the driver had abruptly stopped the car a while ago. What did she say that made him press the brake? Adon stayed silent as well. There was silence on the drive. It occurred to Sophia that Adon was helping her for the second time. "Thank you." "For what?" "We met twice, and you helped both times. We can meet again if you want to." She frowned at him. His eyes were fixed outside the car. She did not know what his intentions were in saying that, but she could not meet him again unless it was for business. She was happy with Brian and did not want any other problems in her life. Out of nowhere, she mumbled, "You know I have a mate." He turned to her and asked, "So?" She looked away from him and replied, "My mate doesn't like it when I talk to another man." "I see," he muttered, observing her face. Sophia told the driver to stop the car when it arrived close to her house. "Adon, thanks a lot." She opened the chain of her bag and took out her visiting card. She gave the card to him and said, "You can contact me if you need any help in the future. I will try my best." After taking the card, Adon gave it a close inspection. Something caught his eye and he frowned. "Personal secretary of Brian Morrison?" She cleared her throat and said in a polite tone, "Yeah, since you came here to meet Alpha Brian, you can call me for the meeting. I will do my best to schedule an appointment for you, even though the next 2 days will be hectic." Hearing her, he raised a brow. "Appointment to meet him? Of course. What did you think? He is a very busy person. Meeting him is no easy task. It is necessary for other alphas to schedule a meeting with him at least 1 month in advance." "Nice," he replied, and he nodded at her. She smiled and turned to open the door, but paused when he said, "Don't you want to know my identity?" She did not turn to him, but waited for him to continue. She felt that meeting this man was lucky for her. Whenever he met her, she and Brian grew closer. Last time, it was Brian's birthday, and everything settled between them. And today, Brian was upset with her, but then he himself called her to talk again. Adon did not say anything, as if waiting for her response. "Yes, I want to know. But I know you are not willing to tell me. So it's okay," she replied, turning to face him. A smirk formed on the corner of Adon's lips. "You only met me twice, but in just 2 days you were able to get to know me very well. I'm impressed." Sophia chuckled at his words. She had the impression that he was a good guy. In his casual jeans and white t-shirts, he looked younger. "I don't need to know much. You helped me, so I will try to help you if I can. That's it. How about you tell me who your mate is, and I will tell you about myself." She was stunned. She blinked her eyes and muttered, "I am not allowed to reveal that." She did not wait for a moment and opened the door to leave. She exited the car and closed the back door. Leaning on the back seat of the car, the man watched her movements as she began to walk. She made her way to her home without ever turning to him for once. "Al Alpha, I'm sorry for the sudden stop of the car at that time. I was shocked when she asked about your identity," the driver murmured in a shaken tone. The man ignored the driver and took his phone out of his pocket. He dialed a number. In just one call, the other person received it. "Find out who the Bruce guy is." The person on the other end of the phone was quiet for a few seconds, then replied, "That's Bruce Morrison. He is the younger brother of the head alpha." "And what is her relationship with him?" "He is her ex-boyfriend." The man cut the call and glanced at Sophia's house. Sophia had just stepped into her house. He scoffed and muttered, "That alpha boy who never raises his voice in front of his big brother is your ex?" You had quite bad taste in the past, darling. As soon as Sophia entered her house, she found her mother standing at the window, looking outside. Mom, her mother turned around and looked at her. Who is he? Sophia walked to her and stood next to her near the window. From there, she could see Adon looking at her house from inside the car. She was able to get a good look at his face because the window of the car was lowered. He is someone I know, Mom. Someone you know? You just got out of his car. Don't lie to me. Is he your boyfriend? Sophia's eyes widened upon hearing her question. She immediately shook her head, indicating her disagreement. What are you saying? He is more like a friend. He helped me when I was in the River Moon pack. Sophia bit her tongue when she realized that she had mistakenly almost told her mother about her being lost in that pack. What help? She tried to make an excuse. If she told her about that, she would never agree to let her go outside the pack again. Mom, he helped me with business. Oh. Sophia felt relieved when her mother did not say anything more. She told her to freshen up so that they could have dinner together. That night, Sophia slept peacefully. There was no burden in her heart. Everything had returned to normal between her and Brian. Sophia made sure to get up early in the morning so that she would not be late for the company. Since she had no classes now, she could work the whole day. When she got ready, she went downstairs. She saw her mother setting the table for breakfast. Good morning, Mom. Good morning. While Sophia was assisting her mother, the two of them sat down together at the table. I am going to meet one of my friends today, her mother said to her. Sophia smiled at her. That's great. Her daughter is going abroad to continue her studies. Sophia was surprised to hear that. Wow, girls who traveled abroad and lived their own lives were considered independent. But what about her mother? Sophia asked curiously. Her mother put more food on her plate and said, Eat more. Sophia smiled at her and nodded. While chewing her food, she heard her mother saying, What about her mother? There is nothing to worry about. She has 2 sons. They would take care of her. She should not stop her daughter from fulfilling her dream. Sophia paused eating. She was amazed by her mother's mentality. She could not help but feel blessed to have a mother like her. Her mother used to inspire her and her brother to do what they wanted in their lives. Abraham wanted to be the Gamma, and she was not afraid of anyone about it. She supported him until he became one. The same went with Sophia. She encouraged her to focus on her business studies. After some time had passed, just as Sophia was getting ready to leave, she heard someone knock on the door. Let me see who has come, Sophia said to her mother as she walked to the door. As soon as she opened the door, her eyes widened. She let out a loud gasp while looking at the person at the door. Brother! Abraham was standing at the door with a broad smile on his face. Sophia hurriedly hugged him, as she still could not believe that she was seeing her brother. As Abraham gave his sister a hug, the backpack that was perched on his shoulder dropped to the floor. How are you, silly? Brother, I missed you so much, she mumbled while hugging his neck. Tears rolled down her eyes. Their mother rushed to the door and paused, her eyes lit up with happiness. Abraham, my son, you are back! Sophia broke the hug and let Abraham meet their mother. Abraham hugged his mother, who was crying on his chest. Sophia smiled as she wiped away her tears. She recalled that Brian had informed her about Abraham beforehand. Thanks, mate, she said in her head. Sophia grabbed Abraham's backpack and closed the door. She decided not to leave now. Since her brother was back, she would give him some time. She still had 1 hour in her hand. While he was looking around the house, Abraham sat down on the couch. I can't believe it. It's been a long time since I was at home. Sophia sat next to him. You have gained more muscle. I am curious about how long you train every day. Her mother brought a plate full of food for Abraham. No, Mom. I had breakfast with Alpha today. Sophia's heart skipped a beat just hearing about Brian. She slowly glanced at her brother. Her mother looked surprised to hear Abraham. People call him ruthless for no reason. It's just a rumor. He is a very kind man. In fact, he often came to drop Sophia off. Saying that, she sat down on a couch. Abraham turned his head at Sophia. She immediately lowered her head. Drop her home? He muttered. Sophia almost forgot that Abraham knew that Brian was her mate. She thought to tell Abraham about her and Brian's closeness. He would be relieved that Brian had accepted her into his heart, but she would have to wait. Tomorrow was her birthday. She would express her feelings to Brian that day. She believed he would not refuse her. Sophia is right. Your body is built like a powerful man. You do look like a gamma now. Sophia looked at her mother and nodded in agreement. Abraham returned his attention to her and said, "Mom, I used to train for 10 hours daily." 10 hours? Sophia was shocked. She gripped his bulging arm and pointed her finger with the other hand. How is it even possible? You worked really hard, brother. You deserve this position. Abraham shook his head and replied, 8 hours of training was fine with me, but when Alpha himself began training me, things became difficult for me. Why? Sophia observed her brother's expression when he mentioned Brian. Instead of fear, his eyes showed a glint of respect. As if Abraham had remembered a moment, he grinned and responded, "He is the toughest fighter when he is in his wolf form. I have seen other head alphas shaken in front of him whenever they came to meet him for pack alliances. He is a moonchild. No one can beat him in any form." Sophia said her goodbyes to her mother and Abraham before leaving the house to go to the company. Sophia. She turned around to see her brother approaching her. He stood at the door and asked, "What was Mom saying? Alpha came to drop you home often? What's the matter?" She lowered her head. "Brother, everything has changed in 1 year. I have so many things to tell you. I haven't forgotten your last birthday. I remembered everything. He is my head alpha, and I have no right to go against him. But you know your brother. I can do anything for you. If he ever does something that—" "Brother." Sophia raised her head to look at him. She smiled brightly and replied, "Trust me, everything is okay. In fact, I'm very happy now. You will be happy after learning many things. Just give me some time. I will tell you everything." She was eager to tell his brother that he would not have to worry about her anymore. Brian is with her now. Since Abraham knew that Brian was his sister's mate, he was worried about her. It was her sister's luck that she turned out to be their head alpha's mate. But Brian Morrison was not any ordinary man. Abraham feared that his sister's heart would break. Seeing the smile on Sophia's face, he realized that his sister had moved on from her ex-boyfriend, Bruce. He never liked that guy anyway. Abraham patted her head and said, "I'm happy to see you happy. Come back home soon." She nodded her head in response. She knew his brother would plan something for her since tomorrow was her birthday. She was excited too. She had been planning for the day. She was going to propose to Brian tomorrow. Though she needed to be courageous for that, she would manage it. Sophia took a cab and went to the company. When she made her way to Brian's office, she felt nervous. When she entered the cabin, she saw him working on some files. She cleared her throat to let him know of her presence. Brian lifted his gaze and looked at her. Just meeting his eyes caused her heart to race. As she attempted to slow down her rapid heartbeats, she clenched her fists more tightly. She lost herself in his eyes, which reminded her of how they always wandered around her whenever they were close. She gulped and looked away when he did not break eye contact for a while. "Good morning," she mumbled. "Morning," he replied, gazing back at the file. With a deliberate pace, she made her way to the desk. When she came to stop next to his chair, she asked, "Are you still angry with me?" He shook his head without looking at her. "No," she smiled as she got the answer. "Yes, I knew you couldn't stay mad at me for long." After saying that, she leaned down and was just about to hug him when the door flung open. Immediately, she retreated a few steps and turned her attention to the door. "Beta," Robert rushed inside, ignoring everything around him, and walked over to the desk. "I have been calling you since early this morning. Why are you not receiving it?" Robert asked while huffing. Sophia was shocked. What had happened that made Beta Robert come to the company? He rarely came to the company unless there were important pack meetings with whom Brian wanted to do business. She recalled that Beta Robert did not accompany Brian to the River Moon pack, despite the fact that it was an important meeting. "I am busy right now," Brian replied, ignoring Robert completely. Sophia could not help but shake her head. She realized Brian was still in a bad mood. He was not only ignoring her, but his own Beta as well. What had happened to him suddenly? It did not seem that he was mad at her. Then what was wrong? Alpha Vic. Beta Robert paused when Brian looked at him. Robert turned his head and realized that Sophia was also inside the room. Hello, Beta Robert. When Sophia greeted her, he gave a small nod. It looks like someone is bothering my beta a lot. Can you go make me a cup of coffee? Brian said this to Sophia after he shifted his gaze away from Robert. Robert raised a brow. I am feeling bothered, and you want her to make a coffee for you? Brian leaned his back against his chair and replied, Yeah, because she is my secretary, not yours. Sophia felt that the atmosphere was heated, and from Brian's words, she understood that he wanted to have private words with Beta Robert. So she bowed her head and left the cabin to make a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, in the cabin, Beta Robert shook his head while muttering, I can't believe it. Shut up and don't waste my time. I have meetings today. Brian returned to his work like an alcoholic man. However, if anyone looked at him carefully, they could say that something was messing with his head. Alpha Lucas called me 5 times to talk to you. And Alpha Victor, these 2 men are killing me. Why are you not receiving his calls? Last time, Edgar had to come to you for that. Now it's me. When will you decide something? Brian's eyes went dark as soon as he heard Robert. Robert tapped his fingers against the desk and said, Yesterday was devastating. I spoke to Lucas. If what he is saying is true, then there will be no one to stop you from getting it, not even. Robert paused and let out a laugh. A smirk reached the corner of Brian's lips as he understood what Robert was talking about. He lit a cigarette and took a deep breath of the smoke. So what is your decision? Robert asked with a careful tone, fearing that he would get mad at him. Brian exhaled the smoke and replied, What is there to decide about? I have planned everything from the beginning. What? You're going to confess to Alpha? Oh my God! Sarah's cheerful voice came out of the phone. Sophia grinned upon realizing how content her friend was. Yeah. Sophia said this while tapping on the keyboard. She gave Brian his coffee a long time ago. She also made sure that Beta Robert had a cup of coffee. He was the beta of the pack. How could she disrespect him like that? She was now discussing her plan with Sarah while seated in the chair behind the desk. I have no doubt he will accept your feelings. The way his mother offered you money, I bet she would brainwash him. Thus, it would be best if you came clean about your relationship with him right away. By listening to her, Sophia was only thinking about how Juliana was acting toward her while they were at Brian's house. She told Sarah everything. Sarah was the only person to whom she could express her pain and happiness. Sophia, you definitely need to take a firm hold of your position. There is so much competition around you. With a sigh, Sophia answered, He is the only thing that matters to me. I know he loves me. I just want him to accept my heart, just like he accepted the mate bond. She talked to Sarah for a while. She asked her about her vacation. Sarah said they were having fun. Just as Sophia took a quick glance at the clock, she became aware that it was already time for the pack meeting. As soon as she finished hanging up the phone, she immediately dialed the number of the receptionist. She inquired as to whether or not any other alphas had arrived yet. What? They are already here. Quickly rising to her feet, Sophia made her way to the meeting room in order to check on everything. On the way, she ran into Troy. Hey! Hello, Troy. You look in a hurry. Yeah, I came to check first, then I will go to inform Alpha, she replied, peeking inside the meeting room. I reviewed everything. Don't worry. You can go ahead and call Alpha. This is an important meeting. Thanks, Troy. She headed to Brian's cabin. She knocked on the door and waited outside until he spoke out. Come in. As she opened the door, she noticed Brian staring out the window. His hands were tucked into his pockets. It's time for the meeting. Other alphas were waiting for you in the meeting room. Brian turned around. Sophia gulped when his gaze fell directly on her. He walked toward her. She lowered her head when he approached her. He came to a stop in front of her. She blinked her eyes, looking at the floor. Has your brother returned home? He asked calmly. She looked up at him with brighter eyes. Yeah. Thanks a lot. His eyes observed her bright face and asked, For what? She bit her bottom lip and looked away from him. She took a slow step forward, gathering the courage to hug him. She buried her face against his chest. and put her hands around his waist. As his cologne reached her nostrils, she inhaled deeply. She closed her eyes and grinned. She felt all of her nervousness go away. Her wolf felt at ease, and so did her heart. Thank you for coming into my life. I know there are times when I do things that make you angry, but please don't get mad at me. You know what you mean to me and my life. Brian remained silent for a while. It seemed to her that he would not give her a hug in return. However, just as she was about to walk away, his powerful arms came down and landed on her waist, preventing her from breaking the embrace. She moved her head to look at him. The intensity of his gaze, which was directed directly into her eyes, caused her to blush out of shyness. He brought his hand up to her face and gently touched her chin. At a slow pace, his thumb rubbed under her chin. When she averted her gaze from him, he lifted her chin. He leaned down his head to her face. The tip of his nose touched hers. Her heart started to beat faster. She swallowed her breath as the closeness was making her desperate. Brian stared at her face. She shut her eyes. He chuckled at her shyness. He tilted his head to the side and planted a kiss on the corner of her lips. He did not move, and neither did she. Sophia felt the moment freeze the clock and the entire world around her. Brian moved away from her face and stood up straight. Always remember one thing. I never allow anyone to be my weakness. Sophia opened her eyes when she heard him. He patted her head and unwrapped his hands from her body. He turned around and headed to the door. Sophia stared at his back while thinking, what did he mean? When Brian left the cabin, she shook her head and hurriedly left the cabin to follow him. She touched the corner of her lips and said in her head, weakness? Am I his weakness? But he said he never allow. Brian entered the meeting room. All the alphas got up to give him a courteous greeting. Brian nodded to them before settling into the head chair. The meeting started. Sophia began reporting everything to Brian whenever he inquired about the project. Most of the alphas came from nearby packs. While Sophia was occupied with the meeting, her phone rang unexpectedly. Her eyes widened as she realized her phone had interrupted the meeting. She immediately glanced at the screen and noticed an unknown number. She lowered the volume. She turned her attention to Brian, who was sitting close to her. She expected Brian to be angry, but he did not look angry at all. He glanced at her phone before shifting his gaze to hers. I don't know who's calling. It must be Mom. She mentioned she was going to her friend's house, Sophia said in a lower tone. Other men in the room chuckled at Sophia. They felt that Sophia was really young to be the assistant of the pack's head alpha. It was not about only making coffee or accompanying the head alpha, but it was all about being the secret keeper of the head alpha in business. Assistant Sophia should know that alpha will never allow anyone to pick up the K. Take it. Brian interrupted the brand management director and told Sophia to accept the call. Everyone shut their mouths and stared at Brian in shock. Sophia smiled at Brian and excused everyone, then rushed outside so that others could continue the meeting. That's my man, she muttered with a broad smile, thinking about Brian's permission. She noticed the missed call and was about to call the number, but the caller called her once again. She quickly picked up the call. Before she could speak, the person on the other end of the phone spoke up. You told me to contact you, but now you are ignoring my phone calls. Sophia was surprised when she heard the familiar voice. Adon, why didn't you receive my call? He asked, sounding angry. I was in the meeting. Why are you calling me? Sophia asked, glancing at the door of the meeting room. Meet me in the evening. What? I need your help. Do you need to schedule an appointment? Let me see what I can do, Fo. No, I don't need any appointments. I need your help with a project. Will you help me or not? Sophia thought for a moment. What project would he talk about with her? Listen, I am just a secretary. I can't persuade Alpha to give you any deals. I know. Just meet me. You said you would help me, so I am asking. She reflected on how he had helped her twice, so she agreed to assist him. Okay, I will see you in the evening. I will send the address to you. Okay, I need to go back to the meeting. Bye. Sophia quickly entered the meeting room after hanging up the phone call. When she walked into the room, everyone turned their heads at her. She cleared her throat and gave everyone an awkward smile. She took a seat in her chair and gave Brian a quick look. He looked at her, but did not say anything. He then turned away and looked at the man standing next to the projector. Sophia listened intently to the discussion. "So what are your thoughts, Alpha Brian?" The leader of the Green Moss Pack, Alpha Jasper, inquired. He was the one who scheduled the meeting for today and requested Brian's appointment for almost a month. Brian's eyes were fixed on the projector screen. Everyone was staring at him, attempting to decipher his thoughts. But it was Alpha Brian, who had the ability to understand him. "What about the Silver Blood Pack?" Brian asked, shifting his gaze to Alpha Mark. He gulped and replied, "We don't have such a plan as Alpha Jasper, but if you take a risk, I promise you that I will never let you down." The high profit share that Alpha Jasper offered was not enough to convince Brian to take on his project. He liked Alpha Mark's project. However, that pack was not wealthy enough to invest in business. Hence, doing business with them was a fruitless endeavor. Sophia observed everything during the meeting. She was a business student. Her score was the highest, so she had an idea about business. "How about dividing our investment into 2 packs? We can take less profit from the Green Moss Pack." As the head of finance, Troy was also present in the meeting. He shook his head at Sophia, trying to stop her. Others began whispering about it. How is it possible for Alpha Brian to accept a lower profit share? Charity is not the reason he is here. Brian lifted his hand, and they turned silent. Even though there were many head alphas in the room, they knew they were seated in front of the business tycoon who could destroy their pack company with a single wave of his finger. Brian turned his head at Sophia and asked, "Do you want me to invest in both packs?" She was stunned by his question. "Alpha, it's not my wish, but a simple suggestion." She stood up and continued after glancing at others. "Everyone is aware that no one is ever going to be in the same place. Maybe in the future, the Silver Blood Pack will be among the top 5 packs. We can assist them in moving up the business ladder. I believe we can negotiate a contract in which they must increase our profit share if they become successful." Everyone's gaze was fixed on Sophia. They had no idea Sophia had such a great strategy. She mentioned help, which referred to a high profit share. Through this contact, they could control the Silver Blood Pack's business by themselves. Sophia glanced at Brian, who stared at her indifferently. "Sorry if I say something wrong," she mumbled, and she sat down in her chair. Sophia felt she spoke more than she should. She lowered her head and gazed at the table. "She makes a valid point. I will divide the investment between 2 packs." Brian's deep voice reached Sophia's ears. She slowly lifted her gaze to look at him. "But Alpha, it's clearly a lost pro." Brian glared at Troy to shut his mouth. Troy instantly lowered his gaze. "It's fixed and final. The meeting is over." Brian stood up and looked at everyone. "I arranged your meals at my company's restaurant. Don't forget to have your lunch before you leave." Everyone got to their feet. Alpha Mark hurriedly approached him and said, "I will never forget your help. I had never expected you to invest in my pack company." Brian glanced at Sophia and said to Mark, "Thank her." All these times, Sophia's eyes never left Brian's face. She was shocked to learn that he agreed with her viewpoint. He ignored others and accepted her suggestion. Brian stepped out of the meeting room, leaving her there. When Sophia stood up from her seat, Alpha Mark thanked her. "You have no idea how much you have helped me. Just tell me what you want in return." Sophia smiled at the young man. Indeed, he gave her a grateful look. "I don't need anything. Still, don't hesitate if you want anything in the future. I will always be there for you." "Thanks." Sophia left the meeting room and noticed that it was late for lunch. They had spent several hours in the meeting room. She made her way directly to Brian's cabin. As she arrived at his cabin, she noticed a canteen employee leaving. She went inside the cabin. The coffee table near the couches was filled with food. Her gaze then turned to Brian. "Come, have lunch with me," Brian said, walking over to the couches. Sophia closed the door and proceeded to the couches. She took a seat on the couch next to Brian and reached for a plate in order to serve him his meal first. However, her hand froze when she heard his question. "Who called you during the meeting?" Sophia put the plate close to Brian on the table and looked at him. She was confused about whether to tell him about Adon or not. She bit her bottom lip and said, Mate, that's... A ringtone interrupted her from talking further. Her head turned to the phone that lay flat on the couch next to her. She picked it up and saw the name of the caller. It was her brother who had called her. She glanced at Brian. He gave her a nod, permitting her to take the call. Sophia smiled at him and stood up. She went a few steps away while receiving the call. Brother, when will you return home, Sophie? Sophia glanced at Brian, who had just touched the plate. He raised his brow as if to ask her what had happened. She shook her head in response. Brother, I am Alpha's secretary. I can't come home early. Got it. When will you come back then? Probably after 8. Okay, should I come to pick you up? No need. Alpha's driver always drops me home. Abraham was silent for a few seconds, then he replied, All right. He ended the call. Sophia looked at the phone, then turned around to look in Brian's direction. He was enjoying his meal quietly. The sound of cutlery reached her ears. She wanted to stand there and continue watching this handsome man eat. Come here, he said, meeting her gaze. She immediately walked toward him to sit next to him, as if he had bound her with some spell. Eat. She nodded at him and started eating after placing food on a plate. She cast a glance at Brian's folded sleeves. His veiny hands were clearly visible. She shook her head and tried to focus on her meal. You did well in the meeting, he muttered. She looked at him with a brighter gaze. Thank you, meat. You have potential in business. She pouted her lips and mumbled, I told you that project was mine, but you did not believe me at the time. A frown appeared on his face, as if he had been ignoring her words until now. His eyes darkened as he set the plate down on the table. What happened? You didn't like the food? She asked him while glancing at the unfinished plate. Brian stood up from the couch and replied, I am done. She was about to put her plate on the table as well, but he motioned with his hand to stop her. Finish your meal. She raised her head and looked at him. But what about you? I'm full. After saying that, he walked over to the desk. He sat down on his chair and dialed a number. Sophia ate quietly. Her eyes kept moving on him back and forth. Even if he was just sitting on the desk, Brian gave off an air of immense power. Because of his charm, any woman would be compelled to get down on her knees for him. He did something on his laptop, then he put his phone close to his ears. The mere sight of his long fingers firmly grasping the phone caused her to flush brightly. Come to my cabin. Sophia was confused. Who did he call in his cabin? She hurriedly finished her food. A knock on the door occurred while she was setting the plates on the table. She paused and looked at the door. Come in. The person who was outside was able to hear Brian's loud and deep voice. When the director of management entered the room with another person, he bowed his head to Brian. Sophia's eyes fell on the person next to the man. Luisa? She stood up and looked at her. Luisa bowed her head at Brian and then turned her gaze at Sophia. Brian's sharp voice shook every person in the room. He sounded angry. Luisa, what was the project you presented in the competition before being selected for an internship? Luisa's eyes widened as she realized something was off. She gave Sophia a quick glance before returning her attention to Brian. Alpha, it was about the construction business. Brian leaned his back against the chair and asked, I can still remember that project. It was good. How about you work on it? Luisa's eyes widened with shock. Of course, Alpha. She could not believe she was getting such an opportunity. It would be one of the biggest projects for the company. Brian liked the project, but he had never considered turning it into a business. I would love to do that, Luisa said, trying to sound confident. The director of management lowered his head. He had no idea if Alpha really wanted to give Luisa the chance. Let's talk about the project then, Brian said to Luisa. His face was clearly demonstrating that he had a great interest in it. Sophia stood up from the couch and walked toward the desk. She stood next to Brian, thinking about what was going on in his head. Miss Berge. Brian turned his chair to face Sophia. She parted her lips. Yes? He glanced at the clock and said, You can go home early today. Sophia was dumbfounded. What? He gave her a look. She glanced at Luisa and the director of management, then chuckled awkwardly. Alpha, I think I have just returned to work after a long absence. I should do more work than before. No need. Sophia gulped as he turned his chair back to the desk in a lazy manner. Today I want to speak with Miss Luisa. After all, she is the top student at Nightshade University. When Luisa heard Brian say that, she tucked her hair behind her ears. She was blushing. Sophia tightened her fists in fury. Why is she blushing? Why does Mate even want to talk to her? She thought angrily. Miss Berge, I know, I'm going. Sophia hurriedly walked to the couch and grabbed her phone. She turned to Brian and said, Alpha, I'm leaving. Your brother is at your house now. You should give him some time. She was surprised that he let her leave earlier so she could spend time with her family. Her heart began to melt. She wanted to run toward him and hug him. However, she was unable to do so due to the presence of others in the room. Bye, Alpha. She left the cabin with a smile on her face. When she walked out of the company, she thought about going back home. Since there was not a cab near the company, she strolled for some time. But after a while, a car came to a stop beside her. The window of the driver's seat rolled down, and a familiar face appeared in front of her. Adan, how did you know that I am free now? With a look of surprise, Sophia questioned. He tilted his head in the direction of the passenger seat. Get in the car. Sophia thought about her word to help him. She proceeded to the opposite door and entered the car. Adon started the car without wasting any time. Sophia turned her head toward the man sitting beside her. She remembered that she almost told Brian about him but got interrupted by her brother. Then Brian let the matter go and paid attention to something else. It's okay. It's not like I'm cheating or something. He doesn't react to anyone except his brother, so there is nothing to worry about. She tried to relax on the seat while she thought. How was your meeting? Adon asked. What? She asked. I'm asking about your meeting. You told me you were in the meeting room at that time. Oh, yeah, the meeting was good. Alpha appreciated me later. He tapped his finger on the steering wheel while listening to her. As he should. She frowned as she asked, How are you so confident about my skills? I mean, you even asked for my help. As though she were asking a forbidden question, he fell silent. With her head turned toward the window, Sophia muttered, I am not even sure if you belong to his rival pack or not. How can I help you with some projects? I lied to you that time. She immediately turned to him. What? I lied about your help. I do need your help, but not in business. Then, Sophia asked, thinking that he had something else to ask for. He smirked as he glanced at her worried face. Relax. You will get a heart attack. Why did you call me? I was feeling bored in this pack, so I thought you could accompany me roaming around. You what? She shook her head, as she could not believe it. You lied to me about help? But why? Didn't you say you were here to meet Alpha? As he tightened his grip on the wheel, his eyes darkened. She was confused by his sudden change. Are you crazy? What is wrong with you? She inquired when she noticed how fast he was driving. Some call me sinner, and some. A smug grin tugged at the corners of his mouth. Some call me Adon. Sophia stared at him with a perplexed face. She had no idea why this mysterious man always talked in such a way. His every word went ahead of her head. Sophia let out a sigh and fell silent. She was curious about where he would lead her. There was no way she could talk to him calmly about how he was driving crazily. After a while, he spoke up. Have you ever felt heartbroken? Sophia's eyes were fixed outside the car. How? He cheated on me. Your mate? No, my ex. Who is he? Sophia turned to him. Now you are asking too many questions, gentlemen. He scoffed at her. You used gentleman sarcastically? You don't even know how gentle I am in bed. Her jaw clenched in anger. Stop the car. Why? I said stop the car right now. He stopped the car abruptly and looked at her. She tried to open the seatbelt. However, his hand stopped her wrist from doing so. She immediately moved her head, only to find him closer to her. She gulped at the closeness. What are you doing? She stuttered. What's so hurried to leave? He asked, observing the sudden fear in her face. What happened to you, Adon? She asked, trying to move her hand away. He released her hand and she let out a sigh. Don't be so scared. I'm not kidnapping you. I wasted my whole time on you that day. Won't you just accompany me in your pack for half a day? Sophia gulped as she gave it some thought. Adon did not seem like a dangerous man in her eyes. However, his identity seemed a little mysterious. Okay, she agreed. She did not even know why she agreed. She was free for the day, and it was afternoon. She thought about going back home in a few hours. Adon started the car. How about you tell me about your favorite restaurant's location? Restaurant? At this hour? I have just had my meal. Then let's go to a park. If you want me to be your tour guide for today, let's go to the Pack Gallery. He frowned at her. Pack Gallery? Yeah, every single tourist who visits this pack goes there. The history of packs is available for viewing there. In fact, whenever someone wins a pack or becomes the alpha of a pack, their name is listed along with details. I see. Let's go there then. Sophia nodded at him and told him the location of the place. They arrived at their destination in 2.5 hours. When Sophia came out of the car, she looked at the plate. Pack Gallery. She wanted to come to this place with Brian, but she could not tell him about it because he was always at work. Let's go, Adon said to her after coming out of his car. Together they made their way inside. Glancing around the white space, she saw the numerous large digital screens mounted on the walls. The screens were showing off the various packs' beauty. A broad grin appeared on her face as she took a careful look around while reading a few details about other packs. It's your first time here, isn't it? Adon asked her. She paused walking and looked at him. Yeah. He chuckled while shaking his head. There was a momentary pause in his gaze as his eyes landed on something. Sophia turned her head to the side and observed the direction in which he was looking. When she saw the largest screen displaying the Nightshade pack's details, her face lit up with excitement. She rushed to the screen when Brian's name appeared. Adon, come here. That's my alpha. Your alpha? Adon's voice reached her ears. She paused for a moment before turning to him. I mean our pack's alpha, she replied. His eyes were suspicious, but then they moved away from her and onto another screen. With a raised eyebrow, he inquired, What about that pack? When she turned to look at it, her smile froze. Moon Valley Pack? Sophia gazed intently at the screen, which was showing information about the Moon Valley Pack. What happened? Adon's voice made her avert her gaze away from it. She shook her head and replied, Nothing. Adon took a step forward and gave her a careful look. Are you okay? She took a deep breath and replied, I am fine. Adon kept his gaze fixed on her. There was a frown on his face as if he were assuming the reason for her expressions. Let's go then. Let's wander around and look at every pack. After saying that, Adon started to walk in a different direction. Before turning to follow Adon, Sophia looked to the spot for the last time where the Moon Valley Pack's name had caught her attention. Are you coming with me or not? Adon asked when he turned his head at her. She ignored the screen and went straight to him. She did not want to know anything about that pack. Have you heard anything about that pack? As he moved forward, Adon inquired. No. Then why do you look so nervous? No, nothing. Sophia chose not to say anything about it. She moved forward, her eyes darting across other screens. Sophia had picked up a lot of new knowledge today. A wealthy pack was not the same as a powerful pack. There was a distinction between the two. While a wealthy pack could destroy any pack business at any time, a strong pack never lost a war, despite taking years to reach a high position in business. After learning about almost 10 packs, Adon asked, You wanted to learn about your alpha, right? Sophia chuckled at his question. I know him really well. Why would I be interested in finding out more about him? I just saw his name at that time, so I said that. That's it. Her response was full of smiles and happiness. She was a happy soul who was in love. Anyone could say that simply by looking at her. Got it. They made their way in the direction of the detailed information regarding the Nightshade pack. They raised their eyes as soon as they came to a stop in front of the largest screen. At the sight of Brian's name appearing on the screen in such a stunning manner, Sophia's lips parted. Brian Morrison, she mumbled under her breath. Brian Morrison. As soon as she heard Adon, she turned to him. She noticed his eyes were fixed on Brian's name, as if he were looking at Brian directly. She glanced at the screen and saw the display. Everything on the screen started to appear one by one. Sophia was shocked when she saw the details of the Nightshade pack. The Nightshade pack is a very old pack that was established many centuries ago. At that time, the members of the pack were living in poverty and had a difficult time living their lives to the fullest. I cannot believe that our pack was once in such a dismal state. Sophia thought, then continued to read a little loudly. The people of the Nightshade pack started to obey the alphas of other packs, who provided them with financial assistance as a form of charity. On the other hand, there was a prophecy that went around the pack, and it stated that one day an alpha would come to shine their destiny. This prophecy was passed down from generation to generation. Years later, that alpha appeared as the elder son of Alpha Harry Morrison. Sophia paused because she was shocked. Adon was silently listening to her while staring at the screen. Sophia could not stop herself from starting to read again. Alpha Brian was born to be a powerful alpha. He has the power and strength to claim any possessions. When he was promoted to the position of head alpha, he made the pack the wealthiest pack in its history. Sophia blushed as she felt proud of her mate. She bit her bottom lip. The fact that this pack had been waiting for him for years amazed her. He was the hope and the salvation of all the pack members. "Go on," An said, cutting her off in her thoughts. She began to read once again. But Alpha Brian is a ruthless alpha. His brutal punishment is not unknown to anyone. He once killed hundreds of wolves alone and demolished a pack all alone in a few hours. He had bloodied his hand many times, too. With a frown, Sophia diverted her attention away from the screen. "I don't want to read more. He is not this ruthless. He always thinks about his people. Why do they write such lies?" Adon slowly turned his head toward her. "Do you think everything is a lie?" "No, not everything. Only the ruthless thing is a lie." "Okay, then how is he?" "He is a very nice man who loves his people. He cares about them but doesn't want them to know about it." Adon stared at her without saying anything. Sophia realized that she was talking too much. Whenever it was about Brian, she could not just control herself. Adon turned around and began to walk. "Hey, where are you going?" Sophia asked, glancing at the watch. Her eyes widened when she realized it was past 8 p.m. "Oh my God, I have to reach home. How did time pass so quickly?" "Last one," Adon muttered as he approached a screen. Sophia followed him, only to discover that he had stopped in front of the Moon Valley pack screen. She gulped as her gaze shifted to the name. She did not know anything about that pack. But that pack was connected to Brian. The pack belonged to his ex-fiancée, Mila. She lowered her head, indicating that she had no interest in learning about it. She could only hope that Brian would be away from that pack. "Come on, read it for me," Adon said to her. She tightened her fists and looked at the screen before starting to read as the slides progressed. The Moon Valley pack represents wisdom and wealth. Once upon a time, every alpha in this pack led a regal life. Throughout Europe, they have the largest pack. The majority of them speak French. They prefer to hunt over engage in war. The slide changed to another, and Sophia hesitated. It was the details about the head alpha of that pack, Alpha Lucas Laurent. Sophia paused when she realized that it was Mila's father. "What happened? Why did you stop?" Adon asked. She shook her head, then resumed reading. Alpha Lucas Laurent used to be the head alpha of that pack until his son returned from overseas. Sophia was unaware that the pack's alpha had changed. She frowned while staring at the screen. The current alpha of that pack, Alpha Victor, is a cruel man who rules the pack in autocracy. People in his pack fear him as much as death. They worshipped him and... "I'm not interested anymore. Let's go." Sophia felt disturbed by his interruption. She gave him a look. "I am not your secretary to do whatever you want." Adon turned around and murmured, "I'm going to drop you home." "You did not even let me finish," Sophia said, following him out of the pack gallery. He made his way to his car and uttered, "Why are you so interested in learning about that alpha?" Sophia replied after a pause, "I didn't know that pack had an heir too. That pack has a history with our pack." He opened the passenger door for her and asked, "What kind of history? That broken engagement?" She gave him a surprised look. "You know about it?" He chuckled and gestured his hand toward the seat. She got into the car. After closing the door, he proceeded to the driver's seat of the car. "Do you know anything about that pack's current state?" she asked him curiously. He started the car. After remaining silent for some time, He began to turn the car around and head in the direction of Sophia's residence. Sophia assumed that he did not know anything else, which was why he was not responding to her. However, after a while, he replied, "There is no change in the condition of that pack. An ordinary engagement couldn't shake its position." Sophia felt relieved that everything was okay there. She did not have to worry about the future then. They would not come for anything in return from Brian, since their reputation had been ruined by him last year. Adon gave her a curious glance. "You are an innocent girl. I wonder how your mate deals with your innocence." Sophia crossed her hands over her chest. "My mate deals with me really well. I'm going to propose to him tomorrow. We will be together after that." "Don't be with him," Adon muttered. Sophia turned her head toward him. "Excuse me, did you say something?" "I said don't be with him. What if he doesn't love you? Because your love is clearly visible in your eyes." Sophia frowned at the question. Why did he ask that? Sophia glanced outside the window. Only Brian's name was in her heart. Even her soul wanted to be with him. She was crazy in love with him. If he wanted her to die for him, she would do so without hesitation. He was walking in her head and her mind every time. "He loves me. I believe he does." Adon did not say anything to her, letting her get into her own imaginary world where only Brian and she were there. The car continued to move along the road, passing through the ever-changing landscape until it arrived at a familiar road. Sophia had no idea how the time had passed. She was taken aback when she realized she had arrived home late. She took out her phone, but surprisingly there were no missed calls from anyone. She looked at Adon and said, "Thank you. I thought I was the one who needed to express my gratitude? Well, it's okay. By the way, I don't think we can meet again." His eyes were on her face as he nodded his head as if he agreed with her. But when he spoke up, his words conveyed something different. When the desire to hate someone becomes so strong that you are willing to die or kill anyone, you will meet someone who is just you, harboring hatred for the same person. Sophia was stunned by his words. "What do you mean?" After giving her a sly grin, he responded by saying, "See you again, Sophia Berge." She was perplexed, but still she got out of the car. The car drove away without question. She stared at the car for a while, then turned to her house. Such a strange man. I can't even understand what he meant. She went to her house and pressed the doorbell. Abraham opened the door and looked behind her. "Where is Alpha's car?" Sophia bit her tongue when she realized that he thought Brian's driver would come to drop her off. "Well, he is gone. What are you doing?" Sophia tried to peek at the living room. Abraham was tall enough to block her sight. "Go and take a shower first. We will have dinner together." Sophia accepted her defeat and went upstairs to freshen up. When she returned, her mother was setting the table. "My baby, come, let's have dinner together after a year." She was right. After a year, the three of them were together. Last year, after her birthday, she had to go to Brian for Abraham. From that day on, her brother was apart from them. She was relieved that he had finally come home today. During the dinner, Sophia was surprised that her mother did not ask her about her being late. As soon as she finished eating, she helped her mother with the dishes. "I'm sorry, Mom. You both had to eat late for me today." "It's totally fine. We are a family." Her phone started to ring all of a sudden. She dashed out of the kitchen, thinking it was Brian. When she saw it was Sarah, she felt disappointed, but then she tried to stay happy. "Hi, Sarah. Birthday girl, I thought it's still some time, so why not call you earlier? You remembered. Thank you." Following a lengthy conversation with Sarah, the clock struck midnight. Her brother grabbed the phone and told Sarah, "Sorry, it's her time with her family." Yeah, sure, brother," Sarah replied to him. After hanging up the phone, Abraham put it on the table. After he spun Sophia around and placed his hands over her eyes, he whispered, "Don't try to see anything. It's just a simple surprise." With a smile, Sophia nodded her head. Abraham led her into the living room. She let out a gasp when he removed her hand from her eyes. The living room looked new and very beautiful. "Happy birthday, Sophia." Her mother said this to her as she was about to pull her into her embrace. Sophia hugged her back. "Your brother did everything for you." Sophia glanced around, then fixed her eyes on her brother. She hugged him and said, "Thank you." With a laugh, Abraham stroked her hair. Silly, that's nothing for you. Happy birthday. She cut the cake they had prepared for her birthday celebration. It was her 19th birthday. Everything had changed within just 1 year. She was heartbroken and lonely last year, but this year she had her mate. She glanced at her phone, desperately awaiting Brian's call. Sophia looked at the clock and saw that it was half an hour past 12. Did he not know that it's my birthday? She thought. After spending some time with her family, she went back to her bedroom. With every passing second, she waited for Brian to call and wish her a happy birthday. But Brian did not call her. She almost cried, thinking that he did not even know about her birthday. She stared at the phone for a long time, but the call from her mate never came. She had no idea when her eyes closed and she fell asleep while waiting for just one phone call. The next morning, Sophia's eyes were opened by an alarm. Immediately, she shut her eyes as the sunlight that was coming in through the window came into direct contact with her eyes. She turned around with her eyes closed. She was feeling sleepy. She did not get much sleep last night. The alarm, which had stopped a minute ago, started to snooze again. From under the blanket, Sophia reached her hand out of it and tried to find her phone on the bed. She did not know where her phone was. She grabbed her phone as soon as she found it. She opened her eyes slowly and turned off the alarm. Her gaze focused on the time. She had 1 more hour. She sat up on the bed, deciding not to sleep more. With hope in her heart, she checked her phone to see if Brian had sent her any texts. She bit her bottom lip to control herself. There was no message from Brian. Instead of Brain, 3 messages were sent from 3 different numbers. It came from Sarah, Bruce, and an unknown number. Bruce simply wished her a happy birthday. Sarah, on the other hand, wrote a lengthy text. She said she was lucky to have her. As her friend, she promised to support her no matter what and never let her down. So now she could call her best friend. A small smile appeared on Sophia's lips. Sarah was the definition of a real best friend. Sophia answered her message. Yes, you are my best friend. Sarah replied with another message right away. Happy birthday to you again, my best friend. Sophia really liked Sarah. She was a really good girl. Shaking her head, Sophia got off the bed when she thought about Brian. It's okay. He is a busy person. He maybe forgot about my birthday, she mumbled. She was about to put her phone down when a message caught her attention. It was the 3rd message she had seen after unlocking her phone. The unknown number looked familiar to her. She clicked on the message and read it. Happy birthday, Sophia Berge. May the things that have brought you sorrow find a way out of your life today, and may you be blessed with a new start. Your Adon. Sophia stared at the text. My Adon? The thought of how flirtatious that man was caused her to let out a sigh. However, it surprised her that he knew it was her birthday. She could not remember telling him about her birthday. Have you woken up, Sophia? Her mother's voice from downstairs made her turn her head toward the door. Yes, Mom. She hurriedly put her phone down on the bed and went to take a quick shower. After coming out of the bathroom with a wrapped towel, she walked to the closet. She took out a dress that she had chosen to wear on her birthday for the last few days. It was a tunic with a mint color. She wanted to wear it and went somewhere to have dinner with Brian. The dress was simple, but the material of the fabric was expensive. The dress had a turtleneck and full sleeves that were torn from the shoulder, giving it an outstanding appearance. She checked her appearance in the mirror as she put on the dress. She styled her hair in a high ponytail and applied a little makeup to go with the dress. She grabbed a pair of black high heels and put them on. After giving herself the last check, she left her room. When she went downstairs, she saw her mother and Abraham talking about something. They paused when they noticed me. Abraham walked up to me and said, "Happy birthday and good morning." He gave me a hug and a kiss on the head. If my sister looks this beautiful, how can I let her go outside the house without protection? Sophia laughed at his words. You have forgotten where I work. It's the Morrison group. There was no need for safety. Her mate was always with her. Abraham kept quiet as if he did not want to talk about it. Sophia patted his shoulder and asked, "Where is my envelope?" She stretched out her hand and closed her eyes. When an envelope was placed on her palm, she opened her eyes. It's from me. Your brother will give you something else, her mother said. Sophia embraced her. Thank you, Mom. Though she did not need the money inside the envelope, she took it as a memory. The envelopes from the previous year were still in the nightstand's drawer. Sophia left her home after eating breakfast with her family. She took a cab and went to the company. All the way to the company, she told herself to stay happy since it was her birthday. He doesn't like birthdays. He didn't want to celebrate his birthday. How can I expect him to wish me for it? It's all right. As long as he is with me, I am happy. The cab stopped near the Morrison group, interrupting her thoughts. She paid the driver and she got out of the cab. With a deep breath, she took a look at the enormous building that stood tall. While wearing a grin on her face, she mumbled, "Today I will tell you about the feelings that are going through my heart." She was not afraid of anything. There was no reason for her to conceal the fact that she loved him. It was not a crime. As soon as she entered the company, she noticed that the atmosphere was tense and intense. Instead of paying attention to anyone else, she went straight to the elevator. When she reached the top floor, she came out of the elevator and thought of making her way to Brian's cabin directly. She realized every employee was glancing at her. She did not know the reason. "Miss Sophia, where are you going?" an employee asked when Sophia was close to Brian's cabin. "I'm going to Alpha's cabin." "Miss Sophie." As Sophia walked past the employee, she was unable to pay attention to what he had to say. She made her way to the door and reached out to grab the doorknob. She was so eager to see her man that she did not waste her time knocking. She opened the door quickly and stepped inside. But as soon as her gaze moved inside the room, her entire body froze. A woman was hugging Brian. Sophia slowly let go of the doorknob as she was in a state of shock. The door shut behind her. As if she had heard the sound, the woman broke the hug and turned around. Sophia was completely taken aback when she realized who the woman was. "Mila Laurent!" A stab of pain shot through Sophia's heart. Sophia's eyes flickered with tears because she could not understand what was going on. Her head nearly spun as she took a step back. Her eyes met Brian's gaze. He remained motionless, standing next to his desk. He remained calm, as if he had not let another woman hug him a while ago. His eyes were serene as he quietly looked at her. "What is happening?" Sophia spoke in a low voice. A frown appeared on Mila's face. She looked at Sophia with a pair of angry eyes. Turning to face Brian, she inquired, "Brian, what is this girl doing here?" Sophia was stunned by Mila's demanding tone. It dawned on her that she had never spoken to Brian in that manner. With her eyes fixed on Brian, Sophia awaited his response. Brian turned from Sophia to focus on Mila. "She is my personal secretary." After saying that, Brian walked over to his chair and sat down on it. Sophia's fists tightened. She could not take her eyes away from Brian. Mila's loud voice caused Sophia to flinch. She averted her gaze away from Brian and turned to the door to wipe her tears, which had just fallen down on her cheeks. She did not want anyone to see her crying. "Calm down, Sophia. That was nothing. Nothing is what you are thinking," Sophia told herself to console herself. "Brian, how can you make her your secretary? She is merely a young student and does not yet possess a degree. You are the Alpha Brian Morrison. Your pack company is dominating the business world. How on earth is she going to manage to be your assistant for everything?" As Sophia heard Mila's sour words, she looked up at her. Ignoring her words, Brian reached for his phone on the desk. He dialed a number and then spoke out. "Robert, come get Mila from my company." Sophia felt relief in her heart. She assumed Mila came here to get Brian back, but he did not give her any chance. However, her heart broke when he let out the next sentence. "She is moving to the pack house. Tell the maids to clean a large room downstairs for her. I don't want her to complain about anything." Brian's eyes shifted on Mila while saying that. Mila flushed as she lowered her head. Meanwhile, Sophia was watching everything in front of her eyes. She did not know what to feel at that moment. "She is going to live in the pack house? Why?" she thought. Her heartbeat was getting faster, as if her heart would stop any time if Brian spoke further. Brian hung up the phone and tossed it on the desk. He moved his eyes to his laptop and began to type something. The entire room was silent. Sophia was stunned as she looked at the man. Right now, in front of her was not her mate, but Alpha Brian, who did not give a damn about anyone in the world. She could not believe that he was not even explaining anything to her. Bria. Mila was interrupted as Brian lifted his gaze, which was sharp enough to shake anyone. Mila grinned at him and said, "I was just asking if I could stay with you in this cabin for a while until Robert comes here." He motioned for her to sit in the chair across from him on the desk in response. With elegance, Mila made her way to the chair. Sophia was able to distinguish between herself and Mila. Mila was an extremely beautiful woman. She was well known for her status, flawless figure, and attractive appearance. Even though she was just walking to the chair, she looked like some goddess. Sophia lowered her gaze. She was unable to express her feelings at the time. She wanted to go to Brian and ask him about the woman. But since Brian was not even looking at her, she wanted to leave right now. She slowly stepped toward the door. When she was about to touch the doorknob, Brian's voice stopped her. "Where are you going?" She immediately turned around to look at him. She thought he would clear up all the misunderstandings between them. "Organize a pack meeting tomorrow." Sophia felt her heart sink. He stopped her for work. She bit her lower lip and nodded her head. "Yes, Alpha." She tried to convey her hurtful feelings to him through her eyes, but he was indifferent. "Inform all the Alphas in my packs about the meeting. Don't forget about the Moon Valley pack." Sophia looked away from Brian. Her heart was piercing inside. She could not concentrate on what he had just said. "Brian, why the Moon Valley pack?" Mila's terrified voice could be heard. Sophia took a moment to look at Mila. Why did she look so terrified? Didn't she come from the Moon Valley pack? "It's important," Brian replied. Mila shook her head several times. No, you don't have to. Dad is enough. If she informs anyone in my pack, the head Alpha himself will come here to attend the pack meeting." "So?" Brian asked, raising an eyebrow. Mila's eyes widened as she mumbled, "V. Victor." Brian's eyes darkened as soon as Mila let the name out of her mouth. Seeing his fierce face, Mila could not continue. Sophia noticed everything, but she was not in the right mind to understand anything. "You are in my den right now. What will he do to you?" Brian asked Mila in a deep voice. Sophia thought back to what she had discovered about Alpha Victor yesterday in the pack gallery. But Mila was acting in a way that baffled her. Wasn't she Alpha Victor's sister? What was there to be afraid of? Mila stood up and leaned over the desk. She reached out for Brian's hand and placed her hand over it. "I believe you, Brian." The sight of Mila's palm rubbing against Brian's hand caused Sophia's lips to tremble uncontrollably. She could not remain silent and spoke out in a loud voice. "We need to talk, mate.